welcome everybody back to Let's Take Five, the podcast where we look at one of the greats of cinema and discuss their excellence and range through 5 films. My name's Ray Martindale.
I'm Austin Luger.
And today, as always with our wrap-up episodes, we're actually not going to be talking about a film. We're going to be talking about a canon. So we have covered Stanley Kubrick on our previous episodes, which included The Killing. What's the next one?
Path of Glory.
Path of Glory. What's the next one?
Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove. Dr. Strangelove. And then we did 2001 and Clockwork Orange. Mm-hmm. And today we're doing the wrap-up of Stanley Kubrick. Have we introduced ourselves yet?
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot that. Wow, we're 40 seconds in. I'm doing great. So let's talk about Stanley Kubrick. So we've covered all these 5 films. This is a filmmaker that I was looking very much forward to covering. It's one of the best directors that ever lived. Him and Akira Kurosawa sort of battle that out for me as being the 2 best. And by best, meaning if I just simply sat down and said, how many of your films are masterpieces, And Stanley Kubrick didn't make that many films, so in a way it's almost more impressive than him. And then Kurosawa really didn't make that much either after the 60s, but anyway, yeah, so back onto the topic here. I picked him, I was looking forward to it, but this was the first person, picked outright, we're picking this person. Now, there have been films, but actual person where one of us sort of disagreed on this. So, it was an interesting...
disagreed that we shouldn't cover him.
Yeah, no, he never disagreed that we shouldn't cover him. No, they never did that. But disagreed that how good he is.
His status.
For lack of a better word. Yeah, his status, yes, that's the word.
So I was looking forward to rewatching the films, because I've always had this accidental contrarian opinion about Stanley Kubrick. And as you've heard the past 5 weeks, I've enjoyed the rewatch experience. I think the Killing is fine. I enjoyed Path of Glory more. Strangelove 2001 going in, I was always a big fan of. And Clockwork Orange, I still don't like. But this is a weird test for me, I guess, which is if they unearthed a brand new, 3-hour finished film of Stanley Kubrick, would you be excited for it? And my answer is no. Because he has a couple films I think are great. Those 3 I mentioned are really, really great films. But as a philosophical approach to storytelling, I don't always know if he's the reason I loved those films, but he definitely made those films better in those cases. But I think he also made other films worse.
See, don't you think it's kind of weird to say that you don't know if he's the reason when he's the scriptwriter, the producer, and the director?
No, it's insane. It's such a weird thing for me, because
Isn't it just possible that he made these movies great and these movies not?
That makes sense too.
Yeah, I think it's more likely. I mean, at least for what you're saying. I mean, I don't like every Stanley Kubrick film ever. I don't like every Kurosawa film ever.
No.
There's no one I like. I've liked every single film they've done. If I went off that measure, how many of your films have I liked versus how many you didn't, then probably then P.T. Anderson's the greatest director ever lived. Or Christopher Nolan, or
Edgar
something
Wright.
like that. So,
Ryan Johnson.
I don't know if that's an effective way for sort of doing it. I mean, he at least. What I like about Kubrick is even when I think he didn't do well, someone else always out there does, and they have a good reason for it. I don't like Full Metal Jacket all that much. But I was just having a discussion the other day. I was telling a guy that I know that I like The Deer Hunter a lot. Now, granted, this guy served in Vietnam, but he did say, "Oh, that movie's all crap. You know what a good movie is Full Metal Jacket." I was like, "I know Full Metal Jacket, and I've seen it, and I don't think it's that good of a movie." But,
What if he said Forrest Gump?
He said Forrest Gump. I used to like The Shining. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that anymore. Last time I watched it, I wasn't a huge fan. But, I mean, But there's always someone out there that says Full Metal Jacket's the best war movie ever. There's someone out there that thinks that The Shining's the best movie ever. And these people, when I talk to them, typically aren't. They're not just saying that because they're Stanley Kubrick fans.
Yeah.
They actually believe it. So there's something always significant, I think, happening in his films that can resonate with people in a way no other film director really has ever done.
It's true, and I guess part of me is trying to figure out what that is exactly.
I think it changes, and I think that's what you're having the trouble with, because I think a lot of times when a director does something every time, it becomes a staple and it's so identifiable. With Kubrick, he's all over the place. I mean, it's unbelievable that the same director that did The Killings, the same director that did 2001, is the same director that did Full Metal Jacket. Yeah. That's weird.
Oh, it's like I think that was like Danny Boyle, who switches genres every film.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. And you hear Danny Boyle compared to Kubrick a lot.
And I like Danny Boyle more, and it's just so strange because I also dislike a bunch of Danny Boyle films. But I was thinking with this when I was watching A Clockwork Orange, and like I said, I don't like the first third. The second third I was really liking. Going, okay, now I get the movie more. I get why it's considered so great. I see the full realm of the movie. And then when Alex leaves prison, and I go, okay, it's cool, he can go back to his parents and whatnot, I found the stretch until he tries to kill himself to be so unbelievably slow. And I'll try to figure out why I was feeling that way. It was because I only was interested in Alex as a concept. I never cared about Alex as a person. And this was the part of the movie where it wanted you to be conflicted about you caring him as a person, and never did. I was thinking about like 2001: Space Odyssey. I think the movie is incredible, a masterpiece. But the time I'm always like fascinated about like the next horizon. The only time I kind of felt about a character was Hal, which is fascinating. Nothing against the other characters in the film.
Oh, I love Dave. Come on.
No, Dave is great, but nothing like. I don't know. It's not my favorite character of all time. And Dr. Strangelove, I loved being afar and watching the chaos. Like, no one feels sad at the end of the movie because a lot of them deserve to get blown up. But the one that doesn't fit this thesis for me is Paths to Glory, when I think it's a very emotional movie that really cares about its characters. And I've never felt that in any other Kubrick film. So, like, it's almost like when his presentation works, I'm in. But when it doesn't work, then I'm out. Which I guess is, again, that's how all artists criticize.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so that's why I won't be excited about like a new one, just because like it would feel like it would be a coin flip. Whereas I know Danny Boyle has a warmness, I guess, towards whatever weird next thing it could be. I don't know.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I kind of liked that about him, that I can go, like when I go to Kurosawa in general, I'm going it for a samurai film, by and large. I mean, he has great movies that aren't, including Ikaru, which may be his best. You can't pin Kubrick down like that, and I think that was kind of always the point. I think he always wanted to be searching for something greater than us. Like he saw film as maybe a different way. It wasn't always about. It wasn't always about humanity in a way that is different than a lot of other films. I think it was more existential than that, which you could then argue saying it's the most human part of it. But I thought he typically developed, or his characters were interesting enough, even when the themes thematically was bigger, like a movie like 2001 or Clockwork Orange. I still thought it worked.
No character's bad in that.
Yeah, the only time I think it doesn't work, if I was being honest and gave an example, is The Shining.
Sure.
I think the characterization of Shining is just bad.
I find the same for Lolita.
Yeah, I've seen that movie once. It's kind of hard for me to talk about it. I liked it when I saw it, but
I saw it shortly after reading the book, which I really liked. And the book kind of has this kind of great, horrible, dark irony to it, in that you're getting it from Humphrey, whatever his name is, his point of view, and it's so beautiful. But the guy's a pedophile, and he's a monster. But his love is so true. The film missed like all of that. So it couldn't. The movie wasn't romantic. If you make Lolita, it has to be romantic, and then you have to feel bad about how romantic it is.
So you're saying Leon the Professional is a better example of that?
Yeah.
And I think, but I think one of the strongest points of Full Metal Jacket, which is a movie I don't like very much, is the characterization.
People like the characters.
Yeah.
I think it was, because I hadn't seen it in a while. I kind of wish I was able to rewatch it for this wrap up. I remember because the hat that everyone loves. I liked it as a concept thing again. I enjoyed watching borderline nameless soldiers, even though they're not, and especially at one point, one character, once older, it becomes very important.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was still more of like I was watching a situation, and that worked for me. That was an example of then when it was about one guy doing things, I didn't care about him.
Well, yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I mean, I've never heard, I know they're out there, I'm sure. I've never heard anyone say that they prefer the Vietnam portion of that film. Almost everybody.
I mean,
likes
it has to be someone out there. Right?
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's a lot of people, but
Yeah.
I mean, by and large, I feel like everyone remembers the first part of that movie. I'm sure there's someone out there that forgot the second half of the movie exists.
I think pop culture has.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, yeah, it does feel that way. But I don't know. I think that for someone who is getting, like, when people were watching, you know, I always reference this, when I first started getting into watching films, people were watching Tarantino and they were watching films like Usual Suspects and Memento and stuff like that as, like, you know, because like the cliche like conversation when you're 20 with someone about who's a big fan of film or fancies someone, they're going to tell you the best movies ever made are Fight Club, Pulp Fiction, Donnie Darko, maybe Boondock Saints, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Those are the 5 films you're going to hear, and some of those films I like, but you won't hear them talk about 2001. You won't hear them talk about A Clockwork Orange. I don't feel like that comes up often, and I was watching those films when I was sort of, to quote The Godfather, making my bones, and so I was predisposed towards looking film not as a medium to present itself theatrically and like, look how cool this shot is and how cool this style is. I saw it as, look how far we can go. Let's a movie like 2001: A Space Odyssey. Film can be bigger. It can endure, like, in a way that it can be powerful in a way that I don't think other people were interested in. I think that's kind of so that's how I came to Kubrick, sort of, if that shines any light on it.
No, it does. I think like a lot of people I know, that's how they kind of got into Kubrick. Kubrick is a lot of people's like first like big director. A lot of people also like graduated from Tarantino to Kubrick.
Everyone starts with Tarantino.
Yeah, it seems like.
Yeah.
Well, my path is still bizarre, just because I was a kid with a library card. So I went from Abbott and Costello films to, I'm already watching black and white films, might as well watch Hitchcock.
Yeah.
So I went really kind of, Hitchcock was my first kind of, well, it was Abbott and Costello, knowing that watching films in the 30s is still funny.
Yeah.
Like, I can be 10 or whatever. And
Sininochka.
like, yeah. Obviously, great Sininochka. Russian politics is my favorite. That was way later, but Billy Wilder was one of my first ones. Definitely of like...
He was early for me, too.
It was because, like, it was by accident, because I was, like, kept going to the library, and, like, you know, I knew the AFI list, and these like, great films, and just kept picking them out, and then realizing later, oh, wait, they're all the same guy. And, Billy Wilder. Billy Wilder actually very similar of, like, you know, different styles.
Sure, but you have an unconditional love for Hitchcock as well, right?
I do. Like
and that's, I think, kind of what mirrors my experience with Kubrick. Even in the movies that I don't like his, and there are movies of Hitchcock's you don't like as well. You know, you still watch them and you're still fascinated by them. And
I can watch his bad movies.
Exactly. So, and I'm kind of like that as well. I don't know if Stanley Kubrick necessarily had the. I don't know if his ideas were always correct. I don't know if he was always technically making the right choices with the camera or what he was trying to emphasize. But I always trust him. I always like him unleashed. I trust him in a way that I don't other directors or didn't. I mean, I know he's dead, but like, I know he had a reason for me seeing this, so now I have to find out why. Like, I believe that in a way that I don't really trust anyone else with, except for maybe Hitchcock.
Yeah, that's true. And it's always kind of fun to have that because, like, you know, now, you know, with Kurosawa, there's ones I'm missing, but I'm going to watch it.
Yeah,
I've heard no one ever talk about this film, but I'm going to watch it because Kurosawa made it.
Right.
It's the excitement of.
I think it's important too when there's a director you really love. It's important to watch the bad movies too.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because it's always interesting. Like, the first bad Kurosawa movie I saw was The Bad Sleep Well, and I was like, how could this be bad? Because, and I know there are people that like the movie too, but how could a Hamlet adaptation by a guy that made the best Macbeth adaptation ever, and I think the best King Lear adaptation ever with both Ron and
Throne of Blood.
Throne of Blood. How could this be bad? It's Hamlet. Yeah, it's not good.
It's not a good movie.
And it was so interesting to watch
Yeah.
in that regard. So even with a movie like Lolita, which is the lesser of his canon, I can still find it. I'm still fascinated by that. You know what I mean? That could even exist. Yeah, I know.
Do you have any thoughts on some of the ones that we haven't talked about, like Eyes Wide Shut?
Eyes Wide Shut's a good movie. It's definitely, I think it is very Kubrickian. It's clear. I think it's him behind the camera. I don't think anyone would talk about that movie if he didn't direct it. I think
That's true.
I think it would be totally forgotten because everyone's heard of Eyes Wide Shut. I feel like that would not have happened had he not been the director for that film. It probably wouldn't have been as good either. I think it's probably as good as it was going to be.
Yeah.
So that one. What else? We got?
Barry Lyndon, I wish I rewatched.
Yeah, we discussed about rewatching that one too. I need to re-see that.
But we both kind of went in with no memory of it, so it's should it be part of the file?
Yeah, I remember it in pieces. It hasn't been too long, but it's 3 hours long, I think, or something like that. So you sort of remember in pieces. The Shining, I'm not
a fan of.
Yeah, I almost feel like I need to rewatch it again because I used to like it so much, and then now. This past time I watched it, I just, and it was the first time I saw it after reading the book, so maybe that had something to do with it.
And like some of the other things that I don't like very much, The Shining has, I think, 3 incredible shots in it. Oh, yeah. It has a few, moments of true artistic brilliance in a bad movie.
Yeah, it doesn't, again, the camera most of the time is showing you something interesting. I think it just, the real hang-up for me in The Shining is it just lacks the proper characterization. That it just does. Wendy is uninteresting. She's a waste of space. Danny is cool. Jack is insane by the time he gets there.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. You need to have... So there's no real arc for him. He doesn't move.
There's no spiral into insanity.
Yeah, there's no spiral into insanity. It just seems like, okay, he's kind of being himself. I mean, and he does get worse, but... you see him in the shots before, especially when he's driving to the hotel beforehand. Well, you hear that? He heard it on the television. Okay, that was weird. And it seems to be a deliberate departure from the book. I mean, so, I don't know.
I was at a bar on Friday. Not the most recent Friday previously from this being broadcast. And it was a very fun speakeasy, and I am now best friends with the bartender. His name is Don, because we just keep discussing old movies, because they had a bunch of cocktails with the movie titles, and we talked about Angels with Dirty Faces for 10 minutes.
Nice.
And we just became best friends. And we talked about different films. I even tried to find a really obscure one. We talked about Charles Lawton. He goes, I said, have you seen Ruggles the Red Gap? Leans in. It's one of my personal favorites. And then goes back to washing a dish. But he turned on TCM because we were talking, and it was Spartacus.
Oh.
You're wondering where this was going. It was just Spartacus. We talked a little bit about Spartacus. I have the most neutral opinions ever on that movie.
Yeah, me too.
It's fine.
In regards.
It's the least Kubrick film because it was for hire.
Yeah, well, and it was a studio project. It was a favor for Kirk Douglas because he did Pass of Glory. There's
helped kill the Blacklist.
There's a huge. I don't want to say conspiracy, but there's evidence that points that Kubrick. There's a lot of that movie he didn't direct, and it was directed by Kirk Douglas.
I see it as a Kirk Douglas movie, basically.
Yeah. So I think I might have said Kurt Russell again.
No.
Did I say Kirk Douglas?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, phew. There's a lot of it that it was. It wasn't Kubrick's movie.
It feels like a perfectly fine Hollywood movie of that time of Ben-Hur and Ten Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone could have made this Technicolor movie.
Yeah.
The TV show's better.
The TV show's amazing.
Yeah. It's so good.
It is. Watch Spartacus.
Spartacus, Blood and Sand.
Yeah, okay, so good.
I think it's now time to announce our next 5.
All right, well, you did the honors. It was your pick, so.
All right. We have, this time we had Stanley Kubrick, who made big, giant films that take you to Jupiter and to the end of the world. This is Richard Linklater. He's going to take you to Texas. We're going to cover Richard Linklater, who's someone I've been wanting to cover for a while now, but whenever we almost do it, they announce a new one on Criterion. So we've now pushed it back several times. Mm-hmm. And because now 4 out of 5 of them are out there now. Mm-hmm. And we're excited. We're going to be covering Slacker, Dazed and Confused, Before Sunrise, School of Rock, and Boyhood. So
there you have it.
So in 2 days, you can hear us talk about the film Slacker, and if you've not seen Slacker, you will not get spoiled 100%, and I believe you will be entertained by the conversation.
You cannot spoil that movie. It's impossible.
It is impossible.
I mean, you cannot spoil that thing that was shot on a camera.
There's your tease. All right, so let us know what you think of Stanley Kubrick by going to thearchimmortal.com, leaving a comment on this page or any other page, because we've been doing this for a while now. We did Kate Blanchett, Steven Spielberg, Akira Kurosawa, Werner Herzog, De Niro,
Willy Wilder,
Pixar, probably another one I've forgotten.
Yeah.
A lot of people. You get it.
Yes.
Check those out. And check the other podcasts, The Immortals and Ad Absurdum. They're good.
Check out my YouTube page, Constant Diversion.
All right.
They're good.
Yeah. It's all good, man.
It's all good.
It's all good, man.
It's all good.
It's all good, man. Now, goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, I guess that's the part where we say...
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2-time Academy Award winner, Steven Spielberg.
He wanted to take us places we could never have imagined, and so he imagined them for us. He is Stanley Kubrick. He died before he could witness the century he had already made famous with 2001: A Space Odyssey. Stanley wanted us to see his movies absolutely as he envisioned them. He never gave an inch on that. He dared us to have the courage of his convictions. And when we take that dare, we're transported directly to his world, and we're inside his vision. And in the whole history of movies, there has been nothing like that vision ever. It was a vision of hope and wonder, of grace and of mystery. It was a gift to us, and now it's a legacy. We will be challenged and nourished by that for as long as we keep the courage to take his dare. And I hope that will be long after we've said our thanks and our goodbyes.